let's talk about fractions. What do you think? Fractions? Yes, fractions. It is a part of a whole. Did you know that? All right, here. So we have fractions. That's what we're going to start with. Let's start with some definitions here. A fraction is one or more equal parts of a whole. And in that fraction, we have two parts. We have a numerator, which will be our top number. That's the parts that we use. And then you have a denominator, which is the bottom number. You can remember denominator starts with D. The word down starts with D. So we'll keep the denominator on the bottom. And it is the total number of parts available. Here I have some examples. Here I have 1. I have a whole number. This would be the whole pizza. It's equal to 1. All right. If I took this whole pizza, though, and I cut it into 2 parts, the 2 is my denominator. It's the total number of parts. And if I ate 1/2, then I have 1/2. All right, because I've used 1 out of the 2 available pieces. Okay, so you can split them into evenly parts of 2s. Here is an example of 3. All right, I took the same pizza, or a different pizza, let's put it that way, the pizza, and I cut it into 3 parts. Well, Sally ate 1 part, so that would be 1/3. Again, the numerator is the parts that are used. We used 1/3. All right, here you have a pizza cut into 4 pieces. Okay, so total number of pieces, my denominator, total number available, I have 4 pieces available. And I ate 1 piece out of the 4, so it would be 1 as my numerator, 4th as my denominator. If I took a pizza or a pie and say I cut it into 5 equal parts, well, 5 would be my denominator. And if I ate 1 piece of the pie, that's the parts used, is my numerator, my fraction would be 1/5. Don't get scared with fractions. Again, just think of a whole, and you've cut it into pieces, and those pieces that you use is your fraction. All right, so we're going to get into 2 different types of fractions. We're going to get into what's called proper fractions and improper fractions. But before we get into proper and improper, let's go over again. A fraction is one or more parts of a whole, even parts. A numerator is my top number. It is the parts used. And my denominator is the bottom number on the bottom, the down number, and that is the total available parts that I began with. All right? So now we're going to talk about proper and improper fractions. So what is a proper fraction? Well, proper fraction, we have our numerator, the top number, denominator, or bottom number. Our numerator on a proper fraction is less than the denominator. Okay, so you have a pizza and you cut it into 8 total pieces. That's your denominator. All right, and you want to say you're going to eat 1 piece. Your numerator, the part that you used, is 1 over the 8. Okay, notice my numerator is less than my denominator. So if I took 2 pieces out of the 3 pieces I had available, I have a proper fraction. If I take 5 pieces out of 6 total pieces, I have a proper fraction. If, say, you have a total of 10 pieces of candy and you ate 3 of them, you have a proper fraction. Again, a proper fraction is my numerator is less than my denominator. So if a proper fraction has a numerator less than the denominator, what do you think an improper fraction would be? Well, first off, the word improper, spell it right, improper means not proper. So therefore, my numerator still is my top number, but my numerator is larger than the denominator. A denominator is still the bottom number. The parts of the fractions never change. You have a numerator and a denominator, a numerator and a denominator. But because the proper fraction, the numerator is less than, the improper fraction, the numerator is larger than. So what if I want 9 pieces of pizza, but I only have 8 available pieces? Let me write that up a little bit. I want 9 pieces of pizza, but I only have 8 available. That's an improper fraction. There's no way I can eat 9 pieces if I only have 8 available. Notice my numerator is larger than my denominator. All right, so some more improper. I'll write this up here again so we can keep them separated. If you have 7 over 6, numerator larger than the denominator. 10 over 2, numerator larger than the denominator. 8 over 1, numerator larger than the denominator. 12 over 11, numerator larger than the denominator. Now when we get into our next lesson and we talk about the improper fractions, we will learn that the improper fraction, that our fraction bar will simply mean division. And we'll get to that in the next lesson. I'm just giving you a little bit of a preview. So an improper fraction, the fraction bar means division. We'll get 2 possible choices when we have improper fractions and we go to solve them. We'll have a mixed number. Oh, we got to talk about mixed numbers. Yes, we do. And whole numbers. Okay, we've been discussing whole numbers. Now we got to talk about mixed numbers because we've talked about whole numbers. That's your 1, 2, 5, 10. Okay, we've talked about fractions today, our numerator and denominator. But if we take a whole number and a fraction and mix the pot together, we're going to have a mixed number. So we'll get to that in just a second. All right, so we'll have an improper fraction. Again, the numerator is larger than the denominator. So let's talk about a mixed number. A mixed number is like 3 1/3. I have a whole number and I have a fraction. Say a whole number plus a fraction equals a mixed number. So say that a whole number plus a fraction equals a mixed number. A whole number plus the fraction together, whole number, fraction, gives me a mixed number. So I'm going to, let's say if I wrote a 7, say I write 5/6, now say I write 7 5/6. 7 is a whole number, 5/6 is a fraction, but if I put the 7 and the 5/6 together, I have a mixed number. So let's see if we can decipher between or decide between whole numbers, fractions, and mixed numbers. So let's say when I write them out, we're going to do whole numbers. We're going to circle whole numbers. Okay? Say if we have a fraction, we're going to put them in a box. All right? And say if I have a mixed number, I'm going to underline them. All right? So let me write a few out here. All right, so I have 3/4, I have a 1, I have a 7, I have 6 5/6, and I have 8/9. All right, so let's look for our whole numbers. Do we have any whole numbers? We do. We have a 1 as a whole number. Remember, we're circling our whole numbers. We have a 7 as a whole number. Any more whole numbers? No. All right, do we have any fractions? We have some proper fractions. Again, numerator is less than the denominator. Our fraction, we're going to put in a box. That's right, 3/4, 8/9, and what are we going to do? We have 6 5/6 left. So what is 6 5/6? It's a mixed number. Very good. And we said we were going to underline the mixed numbers. So today, introduction to fractions. We learned that a fraction is one or more evenly parts of a whole. We learned that the numerator is the top number of the fraction. We learned that the denominator was the bottom number of the fraction. We learned proper fractions. Numerator is less than the denominator. like I have 8 pieces. I ate 7, so 7 eighths. All right, then we talked about improper fractions, which means not proper. So therefore, our numerator is greater than our denominator. We learned that in improper fractions, just throwing a little preview to the next, was that in improper fraction, the fraction bar means divide. And if we divide an improper fraction, we're going to either get a whole number or a mixed number, which brought us to talking about mixed numbers, which is a whole number plus the fraction together. Like 6, the whole number, 5/6, the fraction, but 6 and 5/6 becomes a mixed number. Now, don't get scared. Fractions can be fun. They take a little bit of work, but you've got it up here. Again, step 1, step 2, step 3. Like, subscribe, share. See you next time.